To set a little bit of context and background. So I actually was never a reporter for the journal. So I'll sort of give you the journalism background and then how I got to the journal and then the winding road that got me here to Bond today. But, growing up, I always loved media. I always loved journalism. I always loved writing. I actually wasn't a huge reader, which is funny, but like a voracious consumer of news and of digital content, like around my teens and into my college years. And then, as you mentioned, I did go to Washington Lee University, where I was fortunate to be able to play basketball. And I did major in mass communication and journalism. I got a crash course in how to communicate, how to write, how to do that succinctly and briefly. And I still think back to some of the journalism classes I took with Professor Di Maria and others, where you don't bury the lead, right? You have to be able to structure things in a way where the most important information comes quick and fast and is thoughtful to the point. And when I try and communicate today with my teams or with other executives, I'm constantly using, some journalism lessons. My first job out of school, I actually did work for the Wall Street Journal, as you mentioned. It was more in the corporate strategy realm. And it was very interesting because I got to use that media side of my background and of the things that I was excited by. But then I learned pretty quickly in my career that business development was for me, because one of the first things I got to work on there was how do we get the journal, the digital version of the journal behind the paywall, or excuse me, into large B2B institutions? How do we sell them more access to the digital version of the journal? So I worked on a couple of really interesting deals. The biggest one of note, if you think of a large coffee distributor and retailer, if you log on to their Wi-Fi, you can actually have access to the journal behind the paywall. So any consumer anywhere can get access to that high quality information. But as a young kid coming out of school, I realized so I could sell the content and the information my company has to a large institution who can then provide that to their customers to create a better experience for their customers. And I think for years growing up, I had thought of sales as a bit of a dirty word, used car salesman, all movies, everything we've seen. But what I found really early in my career was, hey, you can actually make 1 + 1 = 11 and do something really interesting for your company, for your partners, for the folks you're selling to, and ultimately for consumers who I really cared about, because I cared about the journal and I cared about journalism, and I still do. And then that led me into a variety of different roles within Dow Jones, which then led me at a certain point into a startup called Game Face Media, which was a really fun startup in the endurance sports space, where we were selling access to individuals' photographs at endurance events. So it was a media play, right? So again, my media background led to that. We used to call it the most compelling content in the world, a photo of an individual. Brand could sponsor and give to the individual. From there, that led to my time at RightPoint, because I had worked on a project where we were potentially going to build a mobile application, and we vetted the best mobile app firms in the world. We were going to go with those folks. We didn't end up building the app, but I ended up working at the company, which was pretty fascinating. And then I had a 10-year run at RightPoint, which then led me to where I am today at Bond as the chief growth officer. I've kind of done it all in the B2B agency world at this point. So I've led marketing teams, I've led new business teams, I've led existing customer and sort of client partner teams, as I call them, all of which sits under my remit today. And we're at a really interesting time in the ecosystem of where Bond is. And I was brought in to help take this amazing infrastructure. I call Bond the greatest hidden gem in all of North America from a professional services agency consultancy perspective of what we're trying to do and where we're taking our business next, helping lead our existing customers, our new business engine, and our marketing as well.